We are back once again, and this time we are talking Fulham, and Joe from Fulhamish is with us. Now, this is going to be an interesting one to get our heads around, purely because of the sheer expectation around Fulham, and not just as an ex-Premier League team, as a year one parachute team, but after a pretty decent, aggressive set of recruitment. And there's been times in the season, Joe, where I've had to answer questions about Fulham 100 points, 100 goals, breaking all kinds of records. And there's also been points where I've had to answer questions about, Marco Silva, he doesn't get the championship and it's all a bit spotty. Where are you after 11 games, 5th place, top scorers, Mitrovic top scorer in the division, 3 defeats? Where are you at the moment, given all of that?
I'd love to tell you. It's so weird. I mean, if we had this conversation at the last international break, if we go back to the end of August, we'd just beaten Stoke 3-0 very convincingly. Stoke, obviously, at that point, were pushing for the top 2 as well, very early days. And it looked like nothing could go wrong. And then it seems that in September, everything that could have gone wrong did. We've had people saying Manager of the Month curse. Obviously, Marco Silva got the August award. Blackpool, we lost, and deservedly so. It was a very poor performance. Then we've had a game against, or 2 games, in fact. We beat Birmingham in a game where it was quite even. But the clinical nature of our team, players like Wilson, players like Mitrovic, just sort of got us over the line, and it looked more convincing than it was. Then we played Reading and Bristol City and got 1 point from those 2 games when we absolutely battered both of them, to be completely honest with you. Beaten Swansea with a Mitrovic first half hat-trick. I know you did the watch-along for that one, and it was...
he was glorious, wasn't he?
He was just in...
You'll struggle to see a better 45 minutes or even shorter than... Yeah, I know the first goal was offside, but he took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was fantastic, wasn't he? Yeah.
It was unbelievable performance in that first half from him in particular, but to be honest, the whole team going forward. And then we go to Coventry, who have obviously been fantastic so far this season, Luton aside. And everything basically went wrong. I mean, I thought we were pretty poor in the first half, even at 1-0 up. Mitrovic, who had been on fire midweek, we couldn't get him into the game. And it's this really spotty form, as I think you said yourself, where you don't know which Fulham you're going to get. And over the last few weeks, it's been a different team every week, even though the majority of the players are the same. And as fans, me and others, we can't really put our finger on what's happened. The personnel, in terms of the 11 we put out every week, is better than most. You'd fancy it to go toe-to-toe with anyone in the league, even Bournemouth, West Brom. You'd fancy them on paper to probably beat them at times. And we just can't really put our finger on what's going wrong. But on Saturday, the second half performance almost encapsulated everything where, not playing very well, but we got over the line in the first half, came out, dodgy mistake at the back where we've been a bit shaky recently after a very good start.
Dodgy penalty.
Yeah, I've got to say that was not a penalty.
No, it wasn't.
But even so, that they definitely deserved to win the game. And it was so frustrating because if player for player, you're the better team, then that they've probably beaten you with desire and with tactics, which is very frustrating.
So as you're talking, you're making me more and more confused. So I'm kind of in this tension between, is there a systemic problem with the whole strategy as it stands at the moment, which maybe the players will pick up? And then you kind of think about individual players. The obvious one is Fabio Carvalho, who started the season absolutely brilliantly. I've got the XG in front of me, which tells me in terms of XG difference, which is not an actual XG table, but XG difference, Fulham should be top of the league in respects of the good chances they've created versus the good chances they've conceded, has the biggest difference out of anybody in the league. So there's a couple of arguments here that if it comes right, everything will be fine and they'll win plenty more games than they lose. But then you always have to consider your confusion of, okay, well, why with this machine up front and this high caliber squad is it not already clicking? how do you rationalise this systemic versus personnel versus data telling us one thing but results telling us the other?
Yeah, I'm very much on the side of I normally try and follow the data and think, we're playing well in most games. It should come good. The Reading game where we lost 2-1 is the perfect example. They basically had 2 chances in the game, and to be fair to them, they took them very well. On another day, I think we win that game.
You got Readinged, didn't you? They
got
have
Readinged,
some players who can score absolute worldies, don't they?
Yeah, Ajaria, he did us twice. He did us when we were in the Championship 2 years ago as well. So he's not someone I'm a big fan of from a Fulham perspective. We're missing Carvalho, as you say. We're also missing Kenny Tete, who I believe is, in terms of quality, the best right back in the league.
And balance as well, in terms of, evening out that.
The difference between him and Dennis Odoi, been a great servant to the club, but both in terms of his defensive quality and also what he brings to us in terms of going forward. We've had to rely very heavily on our left-hand side recently. And for the Coventry game in particular, in the first half, when I thought we were poor, all our attacks were coming through Robinson and Cabano on the left. Nothing was coming from Odoi and Wilson on the right, because normally, Tete's on that side, and we saw it against Stoke. It was not against Stoke, sorry, he was injured for that one, against Hull before he got injured, and against Millwall and Huddersfield. It was basically 2-on-1 on that side every time versus the opposition's left back, and it was great. So it's a weird one. When we have our
teams will target that as well, Joe, if they think, Wilson's a brilliant player, we know that, but if they think there's not a sync up between the two, they'll get yourself in behind Wilson down the left. Odoi won't come forward. Get the space, yeah?
100%. And the goals on Saturday, I'm just thinking back to them now. I mean, the 4th goal has come from Odoi's side in terms of he sort of slept a bit.
Yeah.
The Swansea goal the other day, which was a great goal by Patterson, taken very well, but all came because Odoi was basically fell asleep, and Patterson sort of ran inside him, went through the middle. Tete,
classic centre-back playing full-back, that wasn't
it? Exactly. Yeah. And it's one of those things where when we have our fully fit squad, I expect us to be okay. And I'm hoping that this is just a blip, because in my opinion, we've had 2 poor performances all season, Blackpool and on Saturday against Coventry. And, we played 10 games. That doesn't worry me greatly, but it's more the fact that when we are playing well and we play Bristol City and we play Reading and we just didn't take our chances, and we should have got 6 points from that and we got 1. That's what worries me more. But I think the system that we're playing, when it works, Silver's setting up the team to create many, many chances, and we're doing that, and we've got the personnel to take them.
Oh, yes.
I'm more worried on why we're not taking them. And I think that Carvalho coming back will help us a lot, because you'll have seen earlier in the season, the Millwall game in particular stuck out to me. His movement is just phenomenal off the ball, and he creates so many chances out of nothing, which I don't think an Onoma or a Bobby Reid in that 10 position can really create.
Interesting. Sorry, I've just got a wealth of statistics in front of my face as you're talking there. You're actually right. The finishing of the players that have been finishing has actually been very good, hasn't it? But maybe it's a chance quality thing, or who they're falling to. A lot to unpack. Look, avoid Mitrovic here with this answer, Joe, if you don't mind. But who have you particularly enjoyed watching in the Fulham shirt this season?
So there's a few players that definitely stick out, and Carvalho is one. I'm not going to say him because he's been out for a few weeks, but when he was playing, he was a joy to watch, and he's one of the reasons I think that our form has sort of taken a bit of a turn. I've also been really impressed with what I've seen so far from Wilson, and the last couple of games, he's maybe been nullified because people have recognised him as probably our main threat from the wings. But Cabano on the other side has recently come back into the team, and he's someone that under Parker was sort of cast aside a bit. I wasn't expecting him to be involved. I was expecting him to be probably sent out on loan or sold this season, to be completely honest with you.
He was loaned to Borough last season, wasn't he?
He went to Borough, yeah. And to be honest, I think we could have done with him for the second half of the season in the Premier League, just another attacking option, because we couldn't score for love nor money. Against the Swansea game last Wednesday, Cabano in the first half, I thought it was the best he's played in the Fulham shirt.
It was excellent.
He was so direct. And then it's a very weird one because until recently, I think we've been very solid defensively. And if we have conceded goals, it's almost been from the one chance the opposition has had. The Millwall game in particular, where it sort of just hit a phobie and bounced in, was quite an unlucky one. But been very impressed with Tosin and Ream when they played together. Been a bit more nervous when it was Ream and Mawson on the weekend, and I was quite surprised to see Mawson come in for Tosin. We believe he was rested. It's a partnership that I think has been good, and Tosin, I think, is a Premier League quality defender and will get back there, whether it's with us or whether it's not. And the last one I'll shout out is Jean-Michel Seri, who I think has just been...
Where did he come from?
I can't believe that he's playing for us in the Championship, to be honest. A couple of years ago when he signed, I was so excited. He scored
if you told me, Joe, Sam Johnston, Jean-Michel Seri and Sander Berger would all be still here, still playing, I'd have been like, slow transfer market, yes?
It is unbelievable, isn't it? There's so many players that are just, you would think, too good for this league. And I can't believe we even had Anguissa playing for us for a few weeks at the start of the season. Yeah. That's a bit crazy to look back on. But Seri is one of those players where when he's on the pitch, Swansea game in particular, I keep coming back to it, but I thought it was a very good first half performance. He basically ran the show. He dictated the play. He played a huge part in our third goal in transition. And he's one of those players that if we can keep him fit, he's got to start every game for us in midfield.
I'm not comparing the two players in the slightest, but I remember Willy Bolly signed for Wolves in the Championship. Literally just smoked a cigar and didn't sprint all season. That's Seri gives me that vibe.
That's the level, isn't it? They're just a level above.
Very, very chilled, doesn't he? When he's playing. Without digging anyone out rather. We don't want to be negative, but who could maybe give you a little bit more as the season goes on?
One that's caused a bit of debate so far is Gazzaniga in goal.
Oh, interesting.
And there's quite a big debate going on amongst the fans, Ruddock or Gazzaniga. As you'll remember, Ruddock did brilliantly last time we were in the Championship. Really turned us around almost defensively when he took over from Bettinelli. It's one that I've been a bit undecided on, and I almost think they see both goalkeepers in training. They've chosen Gazzaniga, who's never really been a number one, but has Premier League experience. Last few weeks, I've started to turn, to be honest with you, Ben, and think that Ruddock deserves a shot because Gazzaniga makes me feel shaky. Ruddock, when he's in goal, doesn't. I feel assured. And there's been a few goals recently where I think that Gazzaniga could have done a bit better. I thought he was a bit shaky for Patterson's goal, even though it was very well taken. There was a couple of the Coventry goals on the weekend where I was thinking, could Ruddock have done better there? And it's one of those ones where, because it started to go downhill a bit in terms of results, you're looking around and thinking, who can we change? Something's got to change. And maybe that's why I'm saying Ruddock, if we were winning these games 5-4, I probably wouldn't be saying anything. But Gazzaniga is definitely one where the performance levels haven't really tallied up with him being played instead of Ruddock, when we know Ruddock's such a quality keeper for this division. And it's one of those where I haven't seen him save any where I think that's a great save, particularly. And I think, he's really saved us there. Whereas Ruddock last time out, it was like he was saving dead certs from nowhere. Gazzaniga to me seems to be doing almost the bare minimum and not much over that. And that's why I'd quite like to see a bit more from him.
Interesting. Very, very interesting shout. That one. Yeah. XG against it's just off, isn't it? 12 and 13 conceded. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. If we were to chat at Christmas, do you think we'd be talking about Fulham being higher or lower? And you're fifth currently, and it feels like the bare minimum for Fulham at any point in the season is sixth, doesn't it? Then people will start saying, look, I said to you on your show on Fulhamish with Parker, whilst you're in the playoffs, you can't really grumble, but when it drops below that, people will then be like, look, with the resource and the players, it's got to be higher. Do you see Silver being above? Bear in mind, you've got high-flying Coventry above you, who may regress, all respect to them. Although Stoke might be in for the long haul, mightn't they?
They might be, yeah. And that's what frustrates me more, because we beat them quite convincingly only a month and a half ago. And I was thinking, oh, it can't get much better than this. I expect us, if we spoke at Christmas, to be higher. I think the expectation amongst Fulham fans is definitely top 2. And obviously, whilst you're in the playoffs, as you say, you've still got a chance at promotion. You can't grumble too much. With the squad we have, I don't think we should be 5th. And I'm not going to get too negative about it now, because we're 10 games in. It's very easy to change. 2 weeks, you could be first. It's very easy for it to change, and it's very close. But I would expect us to be higher, and I would hope that we're pushing, if not in, the top 2 by that stage, because I feel like by that point the table started to settle down a bit. Gaps are beginning to form between the top 2 and the playoffs. Gaps are beginning to form between the playoffs and everyone else, and you've got a few that are pushing. So I would hope that by that stage we're in the top 2.
Your ex-manager's a bit of a fly in the ointment. I think Bournemouth are a little bit better than everybody expected them to be. They're undefeated up at the top there, aren't they? So let's do the grade thing then. Can you give me a letter grade for Marco Silva for Fulham? We're nearly a quarter of the way there, 11 games in.
I'm going to go with a grade B, because, to be honest, if we'd have filmed this before the Coventry game, I'd probably even have been a bit happier, possibly pushed A, because one of my main things about, and this is just from a fan perspective, this isn't analytical or anything, is I want to be entertained when I go to Fulham. And I've been so much more entertained watching Silva's Fulham than I have with Parker's Fulham. And Parker, to be fair, he's doing a very good job with Bournemouth so far. Let's see how they end up, because obviously it's been a very good start for them. But that game I'm looking forward to, Fulham-Bournemouth. I'm interested to see how the styles... Yeah, I've got it bookmarked, 8th of December. Definitely going to get moved to Sky.
A lot of Fulham fans' egos have got a lot riding on that one, haven't they?
I think so, yeah, mine included. So, yeah,
oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I always supported Scott Parker, I'd say, until I was far more critical of him when we were in the Championship than the Premier League, because I expected more. In the Premier League, I sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt, but the way we finished the season, it just sort of all went wrong, and it was probably best for both that we parted ways. So I'd go for grade B. I think that it's not been perfect, and it's probably been a bit rockier than a few Fulham fans, including myself, expected, in terms of, in particular, the manner of the Coventry defeat. But I'm hoping that after the international break, we get some of our key players back, Tete, Carvalho. We start to see a more settled 11, because it's been quite chopping and changing due to a lot of injuries at the moment. And I really hope that's when we can start to push on and turn some of the good performances into wins.
Brilliant. And of course, everything Joe and I have said is with the caveat of the landscape of the Championship and the resources. If you think we're being ridiculous on a team that's top scorers in the league and 5th, it's more complex than just looking at that league table and deciding, as I've discussed with a lot of Watford fans in the past few days as well. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Where can we find you on Twitter and your two-hander, your two-man show on Fulhamish?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at FFCJoe, Joe Sansom, and then myself and Jack Kelly from Fulhamish, we do a show every week called the Jack and Joe Show on the Fulhamish YouTube channel. We normally, we haven't actually managed to do one due to scheduling issues this week, do one after the Coventry game. Don't think any Fulham fans are too angry about that so far. But we normally get one out every Monday, analysing Fulham and a bit of a look at the Championship as a whole and how it's looking.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for joining us, Joe. And we'll look back at your words and see how prophetic they were. Prophetic, not pathetic, prophetic. Around Christmas time. Keep up the great work, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Ben. Thanks for having me on.